Gove calls on Truss to ditch tax cuts for the rich. The former Cabinet Minister, Michael Gove, has heavily criticised Liz Truss's plans for tax cuts for the rich, saying her unfunded £45 billion package had the wrong values and was not conservative. He did not rule out voting against the abolition of the 45p band. He said he was worried that Miss Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng were betting too much on tax cuts when we're borrowing to pay for them. Very much Labour's line. Also, Hamish McRae, writing in The Independent, Number 10's financial plan cannot work. Metro next, and Gove. This isn't Tory. Former Minister Michael Gove has become the latest senior Tory to attack Liz Truss's mini-budget. Cutting tax for wealthiest when people are suffering is display of wrong values. Former Minister slams using borrowed money to fund the axing of 45% rate. Gove there very much at the forefront of this blitzkrieg against Liz Truss. The newspaper, Tory rebellion builds against defiant PM. Growing revolt against Liz Truss by Conservative MPs in an attempt to stop her abolishing top rate of tax for people earning over 150k, amid fears of triggering a Labour landslide. Tory rebels believe they can force the government into a climb down after a budget backlash. Kwarteng seems to calm the markets with ironclad commitment to fiscal discipline. The Guardian, Tories threaten rebellion as Gove says tax plan is not conservative. The Daily Telegraph, Truss delays vote on 45p tax after Tory revolt. Ditching levy shows wrong values, says Michael Gove, as MPs demand to know how it will be funded. Also, hospitals scrap more than 22,000 appointments every day. We expect backlogs to rise before they fall as more patients come forward for treatment post-pandemic. Hate to say I told you so. The Daily Express now. Kwasi, no more decline. We must stay the course. Kwasi Kwarteng, the new Chancellor, will say tomorrow that we must stay the course and stick with his plan to deliver economic growth. Watered-down alternatives would leave Britain on the path of managed decline. The Chancellor will draw a line under the market turmoil of the past week with a promise that the government has an ironclad commitment to fiscal discipline. He has the full backing of the Prime Minister, Liz Truss, who says she stands by the mini-budget as she arrived at the Tory party conference in Birmingham. And last but not least for now, the Daily Star. No wonder we're loving it. Happy Meal. Beef burgers can ward off depression and make us happy. This according to Boffin's. Great news next time you get your Big Mac. And those aren't your front pages. Reacting to all of that is Ben Ofwedu, Nigel Nelson and Emma Wolfe. And let's take a look at The Guardian, their front page. Pretty bad news for this brand new government, our new Prime Minister and our new Chancellor. Let's take a look at it. Tories threaten rebellion as Gove says tax plan is not conservative. Well, withering words, Nigel Nelson.
Absolutely.
From somebody that's, an incredibly high-profile figure within the party.
Yes. He seems to be leading the fight back. A lot of Tories are actually speaking privately, but they're not coming out publicly. It's been interesting to see the ones who can come out, because a lot of them are worried about losing the whip or something like that and not being able to stand as Tory MPs. But you've seen on GBNews that I watched David Miller, who turned round and described the whole thing as a nightmare. We had... what was the recent one? Alan Duncan. Alan Duncan. He was saying colossal disaster about it. So the Tories do actually hate this, and the idea.
Well, isn't it the Tory wets that hate it, just as those Tory wets hated Thatcher's economic reforms back in the 80s?
No, I don't think it's sort of wets. I mean, probably it's the One Nation group, which I suppose that Margaret Thatcher might have described as wets if they'd been around in her day. But an awful lot of MPs that I'm talking to across the whole divide do not like what has happened. They're worried about their reputation for economic competence going down the toilet. So there's worries in all sectors, apart from your small core of real sort of Truss supporters.
Yeah, the Redwoods and the Rees-Moggs.
Yeah.
And do we know what portion of the parliamentary party they make up, they represent? The sort of economically dry right of the party? You about a third, maybe, of MPs?
Well, I mean, I think you look at the ones who actually voted for her in the final round in the House of Commons, and she only got a third of MPs.
Yeah.
If the MPs had had their way, Rishi Sunak would be Prime Minister now. So at the moment, she's got 2/3 of the party, of the parliamentary party, who didn't vote for her. These are the people she has to win over.
So there isn't a well of goodwill that she can deploy in order to sort of get through this, self-inflicted crisis. What about Rishi Sunak? He's not attending conference this year,
which is
sensible,
probably sensible.
Yeah,
I think that I like his tweet that he put out and says that he's not attending because he wants Liz Truss to own her moment. I think he means suffer, actually.
Yeah,
but at the moment, no, he's keeping his powder dry, and politically, that's quite sensible. In the event that the Tory MPs do topple Liz Truss, Rishi Sunak's back in the frame again.
Well, surely it would be a coronation. I mean, if Liz Truss were to fall, they'd need a new leader, sharpish, wouldn't they?
They would, but I mean, they've got to change the rules to go and do that. There's, the issue comes down
not another 12 weeks.
Well, that's the problem, isn't it? That the moment the rules are, it goes out to the party membership. Now, the idea that MPs would take over and they decide for themselves is not going to please the party membership. But equally, we can't have another leadership election so soon after the last one. And either way, you'd end up with a general election. It's the only way forward if we end up losing another Prime Minister.